Here we go on the graphics. So this is the main graphic, main logo that I came up with. I changed it up a little bit from the version 1. So this is the dual deploy 54mm version. I just put some clear on this last night. I used the Future floor polish. It's not called Future anymore. What is it called? I can't remember what it's called now, but anyhow, so some of that acrylic floor polish on it. So you can see the graphic, you know, it looks okay, but with the dark green, there's not much contrast between that and the black, and I didn't really want to have to redo it. So I kind of made an updated version for this dual deploy edition of the Mighty Mick, and I added the white border. So there's the dark green, white, and the black. So that gives more contrast, so you can see it better. So there's that. So these were all cut out on my Cricut machine. There's the shamrocks. Here's some of the smaller logos. Then I just kind of went looking through, you know, all my stuff. There's a red NAR logo that I printed out. Of course, we want to mark the center of pressure. This is the tag that has my name and phone number. Also did a black NAR. There's my typical OK Turbo. Some Tulsa Rocketry stickers. There's some lock. The lock ones are green, so that might actually look cool on there. So, you know, these will be the main ones here. Then we'll kind of, you know, flavor to taste with these other ones. I might use a little Tulsa one. So here is the main graphic on the Mighty Mick. And I've added some tape here, trying to keep this tight here because I want this joint to be as tight as I can. I guess I could have done better sanding that joint, but it'll work. It's functional. So this too will actually be riveted onto this part of the electronics bay. The electronics bay is right here, so they got couplers, and there's a coupler tube that goes here. So this will actually have rivets. So this will be basically solid, you know, and then the parachute will come out that way. This will be shear pins here, so this part can separate. So when I'm laying this out, what I've done is I've added like a center line so I can sight down the length of this thing. I want it in line with this, you know, the main white fin that's going to have the shamrock graphic on it. So knowing all this, I think I want to put it here. Now, you know, you can center it. But centering it puts a lot of this graphic on this joint, so I'll have to make slices through it. I'd like to minimize that. So I think I may put it right about there. So that way, you know, this graphic is missing this joint. And then there's this one. And this one will actually aid, you know, when it's there, when you put it on, you slice it, it's going to aid lining up those two pieces. This will be riveted together, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's only going to go on one way anyway. This will be where it separates. So when you put these two together, you'll use the graphic to help line it up, kind of like match marks. That way, wherever you've drilled and tapped for the shear pins, it'll line up and it'll be good. So just, you know, years of building these things, you kind of think about this stuff. Each time you do it, you get a little bit better. You know, I had one rocket where I got it all done, and I actually had put the hole for the switch, you know, I had one of those little screw switches, and I put it on the rail for the first time, and I couldn't get to the switch because I put it in the wrong, you know, radial orientation. So it's like, okay, well, let's not do that again. So you're always trying to think of that thing. The rails would be on this opposite side, you know, in between the two green fins. That's where the rails will be, so it slides on. So I'll put, you know, the screw switch hole somewhere around here on either side. That's why I kind of want to lay it out first, and then I'll make those decisions once it's laid out. So anyhow, what I'm going to do is get this lined up, put some tape down so that when I put this on, it'll be straight. So I'm going to try and pre-curve it just a little bit. Putting some tape here so that it doesn't move. And the idea is you kind of fold it back, peel off the backing, squirt some lightly, soapy water on there, So it'll still kind of slide, and the bubbles can work their way out. So there's that. So this is just a spray bottle with a few drops of soap. Don't soak it down because you don't want too much water getting down inside of there and that crack and swelling up and locking everything together. So and the idea here is just to kind of where you made that tape hinge, so you roll it around. We gotta grab our paper towel, dab up some of the water. The idea is just to roll it, work out as many of the bubbles as you can with the carrier tape still on it. Peeling off all of this blue tape. You're just going to want to work out the soapy water and get the vinyl to stick down. Then we kind of get to the reveal part. Just kind of watching as I go here. Pulling it straight back 180 degrees, not lifting. Ooh, I can already tell this one looks better than the other Mighty Mick. These are all cut pieces of vinyl, so you want to kind of watch these two to make sure they don't lift off the littler pieces. Ooh, I like that. That looks good. This is what I was talking about. There's going to be a line to cut right there, right on the seam. Okay. Take off the tape that was kind of holding the sections together. Extra. This is always kind of the tricky thing is on this to get that little bit to kind of roll around the edge. Okay. There's Mighty Mick. It's kind of big and cartoony, but I think it looks cool. Then we do the same thing to the other graphics. So next probably I'll work on the shamrocks because that's the next major part of the graphic design. So I'll show you those when I get done with those. So progress, there's the shamrock, and then I did both sides of that fin, and there's one of the little Mighty Mix. So just more of this, and I'll show you guys what it looks like when I'm done. So right here, for instance, I want another hole. So just using the tip of the knife, just kind of get a little starter there. Tell right now my battery's running down on my drill. Yeah, the battery's going to have to go on the charger. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's what I mean. It kind of pulls up. Now you want to be careful. Don't use the CA right now, because the CA will run in there and you'll glue the tubes together. So once we take it apart, then that's when we worry about using the thin CA glue to harden it. So I'm just scraping, trying to scrape off that little bulge that made to smooth that out. Take the little rivet apart. Put that part in. This one should go in because the tape's not there. It's still fighting me. With the multiple layers, oh, that's right, I've run into this before. With the really thick inner coupler doubler inside of the electronics bay, what you have to do is you have to kind of go in there and dig that out so the little rivet can expand. So that's what's going on there. Yeah, I've seen this before. I forgot about that on the lock electronics bay. They have that extra thick doubler. And that's what's preventing that rivet from expanding. When the pin goes in the rivet, it should expand and kind of click in place. But let's see if my drill's got enough juice to get this last one done. And we'll look inside there and I'll kind of show you what's going on with that. So I kind of took that part off. So now we just have the electronics bay and this upper tube section. So take the rivets out here. Whoa, don't lose it. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but the rivet, it's like a two-part. When you put the pin in, it should expand. The little ends will expand and grab onto the tube so it won't come out. So that's what we're hoping for. So what's happening here is we've drilled through, through the outer tube, through the coupler tube, and then there's this inner stiffer tube, and it's very thick. So we're going to have to kind of make a spot there so that can expand and click open. So what I'm going to do, since I've got it apart now, I'm going to go ahead and harden this hole with some CA, work on it, sand on it, and get this all to fit better. So come back in a second and we'll start doing that. I'll show you kind of what the OK Turbo tricks are. Of course, none of this is gospel. You just do whatever works for you. So this is what works for me. So back in a minute. So the idea here is to just kind of put some of this thin CA glue on this hole, let the cardboard soak it up, And then it'll make it hard so that we can sand it or work it. So that's what I'm going to do, is just, and it's like thin like water. So you have to kind of, watch here. It'll go everywhere. So I'm just hitting each of these holes. I'm going to hit them from the outside too. Just kind of let that CA soak into the fibers and harden it. Let's see, if you had done this when you had these two pieces together, it would have, guaranteed it would have glued the two pieces together, which is what you don't want to do. Now this is kind of the tricky part, because you don't want to mess up your finish. So try and not get it on the paint. You see how that fuzzy's kind of there? What we'll do is we'll come back with the drill bit and clean that up. So if you look inside there, that's now, the fuzzy has now been hardened with the CA. So I'm going to get the Dremel tool with the sanding drum, and I'm just going to kind of work that on the inside of the tube and make like a divot with a rivet. There you go. Let's see if I can get this camera set up so you can tell what I'm doing. So just kind of working on the inside of that tube there. Brush some of that dust out. And getting it to the point where when this rivet goes through, well, I'm going to have to drill again because that's all hardened and it's closed up a little bit. But when that rivet goes through, so there's place for it to go. So I'm going to work on the other ones. Work on the outside, because you also want this is kind of bulged up a little bit here too. So get some sandpaper. Work that down a little bit. You know, all these tubes were hardened with the finishing resin, so they should sand pretty easy. Get that sanded down, work on these, get this sanded down, work on those. Then when we come back, I'll fit it up and show you kind of how it works. So back in a bit. So I've finished kind of working on those, and then I went ahead and kind of soaked some more CA in on that raw tube, the raw cardboard, wherever I ground it out. So let's let that go ahead and finish curing. Plus the battery on my drill's having to charge anyway. So what I'm going to do here is going to work on laying out where the rail buttons will be. So there's a centering ring here, there's one here, and then there's one up here. So I mean, you kind of want, you know, the rail buttons as far back as you can. You don't want it, you know, don't want too much of a cantilever when it's on the rod, but you know, to break things. But you want them going into good solid centering rings. That's the way I always did. Never had a problem with it. So there's another centering ring up here. So this is kind of another one of these tricks, is just, you know, I've got just an extra dowel that's sitting over there in my pile of stuff. Looks like I've used it for a painting stick at one time. So I want to know where this forward ring is at. So what you can do is just run the rod down through. There it hits the ring. Mark. I can even take a look. See, that's what the good thing about the 4-inch rockets is they're big enough where you can really. So that is on the ring. So that's how far back that is. This whole thing is kind of wobbly. So now we know that the beginning of that center ring is right there. So I'm going to get some tape, kind of lay it over there for something to mark on. Just the general vicinity. And the only reason for this masking tape is for the tape to mark it with a pencil. So we need a good line. I've got a piece of aluminum angle I bought down at Tractor Supply, and it's going to be our straight edge. And what it does, it's 90-degree angle. It just lays flat up against that tube, so that should give us a good line down the length of the tube. If I can get it to lay on there good. Still do the eyeball sighting down the tube thing. So there's a 1/4 inch thick centering ring on the back end of this. That ring is that thick. Here's our stick that we just used to measure the depth of that ring. So it's about there, and it's a 1/4 inch thick. It's about that thick, so we want to drill right there. We want to drill right there. And those should be good 2 places for the rail buttons to go. Well, the battery's charged on the drill, so let's get going on the rail buttons install. So I've got white ones, I got black ones. I think I'm going to go with the black. Yeah, black. So these are from railbuttons.com. These are the one-piece ones. They're a little easier, look a little better than the 2-piece ones. They come with these just like machine screws. And I don't do any, backup with the blind nuts and all that kind of stuff. I just use, good old stainless steel wood screws. So they're tapered to fit in there just like the other ones. So that's how I do it. Right or wrong, that's how I do it. So find my screwdriver and let's do this. So I've already marked and measured and where I want these. I'm trying to do a pilot holes so nothing splits. Let's see if we can do this. Just try to run it perpendicular so you're going straight into the wood ring. Okay, there's a little pilot hole. This is how I do it. And after we've clear coated and everything's done, what I'll put a drop of thin CA in that hole. So we'll remove these before we do the clear coat. You kind of turn them. You want them to be able to roll. So that's locked up tight. So now just back off a little bit. So now, because as it goes up the rail, you want it to be able to spin freely. So that's about as tight as you want it. So there's that one. Let's get this other one. Same thing. Hopefully my measurements are good, and we'll go straight into that ring. I think I got it. Tighten until it stops rolling, then back it up a little bit. There you go. So there's the rail buttons. That was easy.